Hey everyone, welcome back to They're Gonna Call It a Hard Foul. I'm Jim Quigley, and today we got a full show for you. Mike's back, and he's going to weigh into why he wishes the Celtics took a different approach to the offseason, especially now that Jayson Tatum is looking like his rehab is progressing faster than anyone could have expected. We'll dig into what to expect from Baylor Scheierman and Neemias Queta this upcoming season. We'll take a trip around the Eastern Conference and try to figure out if there are actual real contenders out there or if they're all pretenders. And for those of you watching on YouTube, we ended the show with some long overdue love and appreciation for Celtics great Ricky Davis.
You're listening to
They're going to call it a hard foul. They're going to call it a hard foul.
This is Hard Foul. We're back after a weekend off, I guess. We're going to be a bit more on a regular schedule here. My name is Jim Quigley, and you are who?
This is Mike Quigley, and we are brought to you by Fan First Sports Network, bitch.
That's right. And Mike, we are, almost a week into training camp. Some encouraging things out of training camp, as I talked about on the last pod, just in terms of, how hard they're going, how fast they want to play. There's, a real emphasis on playing with pace, something they hadn't done in the past. And I'm sure is welcome news to you based on how you have felt the offense has gone, your critiques, especially last season. And, you have some Jayson Tatum thoughts and team building thoughts as it relates to Tatum that we're going to get to. And why don't we start right there, Mike? We can get back to training camp, and we're going to preview a little bit of the East on this episode as well. But let's start with Tatum. I talked about on the last pod that I did solo that, these things that we're seeing and his video that he put up on YouTube of him getting back on the court, his kind of national media tour where he went around talking about his injury recovery, and then a particular quote where he says he plans on coming back at home. That all rings true to me that he's coming back this season. That we should expect to see Jayson Tatum, at some point, and I'm telling people to buy tickets in February. And you have some just overall thoughts on, that based on where he is in his recovery now.
Yeah, I think we've said this on previous pods that Tatum's just built different, and I'm not surprised with this recovery because of just the way he is, and that I have a feeling he's going to come back and play at a high level too, and really surprise a lot of people. And my whole thing is just, he's coming back to a team that isn't really built to compete for a championship. He's working really hard to get back. I mean, these decisions that they made with Holiday and Porzingis and Al Horford have not been, in Luke Cornett, basketball decisions. They're all financial decisions. Now, this could come back as a regret by ownership if Tatum comes back the way I think he's going to like, we could have competed for a championship here. We decided not to. We hid behind the fact that Tatum was hurt and said, that was a big part of our reason why, but these are purely financial decisions. And it's really unfortunate because I think if you have Porzingis, Holiday, Horford, and Cornette on the court right now, Tatum's coming back to a team that's competing for the, 1, 2, or 3 seed, and is looking to put them over the top and just compete for a championship again. And to me, that's unfortunate. And I wonder about, how Tatum might feel about that when he comes back, when he plays at a high level. It's just something, I'm going to be wondering about and keeping an eye on. And I think we have a right to complain about ownership if that's the case.
So I guess a couple of things. I did write about, when the new ownership came on, that one of the things that wasn't, was not likely, but not unrealistic, or completely unrealistic, is that Tatum comes back and at some point he regains form. And, it's worth asking the question that, what was worth more, resetting these penalties and getting under the tax, or potentially running it back and trying to win a title. So I don't think it's unreasonable to ask the questions that you're asking. I do think a couple things we just need to be fair about. They weren't bringing Luke Cornett back unless they were able to get at least close to what the Spurs could offer. And if they were keeping Holiday or Porzingis, that they wouldn't have been able to offer Cornett more than the minimum, or a little bit more than the minimum, even with his bird rights. Horford, because of his bird rights in his previous contract, they would have been able to extend themselves a little bit more. So I think reality is probably Cornett, unless he was just going to stay here because Tatum was back, and then that's a player decision and not really a franchise decision, was probably gone if you were going to run this back. And then you have to ask questions from a team building perspective, whether the best moves were to keep a guy like Porzingis, who didn't play in the playoffs last year, really didn't play. Holiday, who, wasn't himself for most of the season, and really, unfortunately, was not close to himself in that second round against the Knicks. Playing hurt and not effective, really, especially in offense. And then you have the Horford question. And I do think if Tatum did come back, I think, and he did not get hurt, I think Horford probably decides to come back. I think with Tatum getting hurt, that sealed the deal for Horford either way that he was leaving from a free agent perspective. And he said pretty much as that at his presser with Golden State. But I think the bigger question, so those are like the reality of the player situations, and some of those are team buildings, and you can move them and not necessarily be salary dumps and still trying to build your team to compete when Tatum gets back. I think the bigger question is right, though. If they, if Tatum didn't get hurt, or if they knew he would be back this season, do you still make those same moves, or do you kind of do it differently, eyeing that you're trying to build yourself as a contender this year? And I still think they make the moves, and I think most of them are financially driven, unfortunately.
Yeah. I just wonder how your best player feels about that. Working his way back to come back to this roster. I don't know. We'll just wait and see. He's working really hard to come back, and he's one of the best players in the league. You have to work towards putting a team on the court that can win championships, and I would say right now the Celtics aren't close.
Yeah, I think Tatum is one of those guys that probably has an understanding why the team did this, and is probably, from the Celtics management's perspective, and probably a little bit more forgiving than other superstars would be. But I think in the coming seasons, if this continues to be a trend to cut spending, let's say if it's next season as well, where they want to stay under that second apron and maybe even try to get desperately under the first of the luxury tax or whatever, then I wonder how he will respond.
Yep.
Then I think that question about this season becomes even bigger, probably in his mind. So I
Yeah.
think that's kind of where it is, but I don't think you're wrong. And that's why I wrote it before I knew Tatum was recovering like this. And actually, I think I wrote in the article at the time that I did not believe he was going to really come back. So there were definitely basketball reasons on why you made these moves. I'm not sure they're the moves you would have made, but there were reasons, right?
Mhm.
But now, like his recovery, Mike, what you're seeing, you're hearing about box jumps. Jaylen Brown said he looks like he's ready to play the first game of the season. Um, it's all lining up here that he's going to be back this season. And so their approach to this season, goes even more under the microscope.
Yep, it does. It does. And that's a good transition, Jim, to here we are, right? We've been in training camp. Joe's got them doing 3-hour practices and
Yeah.
running. And it sounds like the pace of play is the message of the day.
Yeah.
Maybe they saw something with the way Indiana plays, and that's kind of how they want to build this thing for this year. It does give you some excitement as we go into this season and what it might look like on offense.
Yeah, yeah, and I spent a lot of. I want to get your thoughts on it. I spent a lot of time on it in the last pod. They were what 26th in the league in passes per game last year.
Uh-huh.
They were worst in pace of play. But there was rationale for why they did things, and it won them a championship the year before. They attack weak defenders, go at them. Like, they got up a lot of threes, obviously, but they had the talent to fit the style of play. When the talent started to deteriorate in the playoffs, with Porzingis not being available, Holiday not being himself, you could see where their inability to have that urgency on offense hurt them
Yep.
when they
Yep.
went down. So you spent a lot of time on this where you wanted to see change after the playoffs, the really embarrassing loss to the Knicks. I got to assume this is really welcome news to you.
It is. I think I look at it two ways. If they were bringing the same team back, I wanted to see change, but not drastic to like this level. I think teams that lack talent really have to play this way. They have to really depend on being top five in the league with passes and getting lots of shots up. I wanted to see the Celtics move into like that top 15, with the talent that they had because they really were too slow last year and they did dribble the ball out way too often, just like dribbling that clock out, and then settling for threes. I'm excited for this kind of play, especially for Jaylen Brown. He should be able to feast in that kind of pace, getting up and down. So I think it's going to really benefit him, and I do think it's going to benefit guys like Derek White and Pritchard too. Um, so they should be giving us an exciting brand of basketball. And I also think playing this way in the regular season, when you are top heavy with talent, you don't have a lot of reserves. This can buy you some wins against talented teams who aren't showing up every night. And the Celtics really got to try to stack wins where they can to get into the top 6 playoff seeds. So I think it could really benefit them and keep them competitive.
Yeah, I think it's not always teams that are less talented that do this. I mean, the two teams that were in the NBA Finals played this way, and they were loaded with talent. The Thunder, you could argue, had more talent than the Celtics last year, just
Right.
loaded with talent. So, yeah, no, I'm really interested. I think Derek White will really benefit from this. He's a quick decision guy, a 1 second guy. He makes 1 second to decide to pass, or drive, or dribble. So he's already or shoot. He's already like fits this mold. You mentioned Brown, especially his ability to get to the rack and get in transition. I think he's better not dribbling the air out of the ball. I do think it's going to be interesting to see a guy like Peyton Pritchard in this offense because he is a guy that pounds the air out of the ball, to get to the spot where he wants to score from. There is a lot of dribbling that is incorporated with his game, and it sounds like they want to play a little bit differently. So seeing how that works for him, it's interesting. I also, Mike, the other thing that like stuck out to me this weekend was a quote from Peyton Pritchard and a couple other guys just about how the physicality they want to bring to defense. And they mentioned kind of what Oklahoma City was able to get away with their physicality, and that you play that style, you play that physical, you're able, the refs
Mhm.
can't call everything. Now they're also very skilled, so
Yep.
it adds to the ability to get away with it. I think if you're not skilled and you're playing physical, you're gonna still get called for a ton of fouls, and I have real questions about the defensive skill on this roster. But
Oh yeah.
I just think it kind of it's leaning into this idea of playing hard and playing fast and kind of playing relentless and a little bit reckless. And I think Joe, you hear this, it means Joe's going to play a lot of guys. Um, and
Yeah, and it's they can want to play physical, but they lack size at every position. They are small. You think about point guard and shooting guard, Derek White and Peyton Pritchard. They
Mhm.
can't get up on somebody like a Lou Dort does. Like they are not that kind of defender. They don't have a power forward. Their centers are frail, so they can want to be physical. I just don't know if they're good enough to be physical. I think they're going to struggle with the physicality of the NBA. I think that's what's going to be a problem for the Celtics is that teams are going to be able to bully the Celtics. As much as they want to get out there and punch first, they
Yeah.
lack a lot of size, Jim. They really do at every position. I
Yeah,
mean, yeah,
the one way you can negate that, I guess, is if you're playing a lot of guys in short minutes. You just
Mhm.
telling them go all out. Don't worry about being bullied. Give everything you can. And I do think that leads to just getting back to what you talked about. If you're bringing it like that on most nights in the NBA, you're going to be able to pick up, you know, three, four, five, maybe extra wins during the year to your
Mhm.
record that you probably shouldn't have, and that's the difference between being a six seed or being in the play-in. So I guess I like what I'm hearing, and I know a lot of teams talk like this in preseason. And it's the first time we're going to see Missoula with a not a top five talented roster. He's probably had a top three talented roster ever since he's been here. But I do think the one thing it seems to me anyways, and maybe I'm wrong, I feel like players really buy into him. And
Yep.
it feels like when he's committed to a certain style, he is 100% in on it. And so this idea when they keep talking about playing fast, and I think Brown's exact quote, it doesn't feel like I'm playing for a basketball team, it feels like I'm running on a track team. Um, I do think there is going to be considerable buy-in. The interesting thing though is, Mike, what happens to the style, and it's a story for another time. It's not to talk about right now, but when Tatum comes back,
Well, it's
because
whatever Tatum.
he does not play this way, so that is interesting.
It's whatever Tatum wants it to be.
Yeah, well, coming
Right?
back in the middle of the season, maybe not what he was. It's interesting.
Yeah.
It's a story. It's a discussion for another time, but it's definitely interesting. Yeah, no, I'm excited, and I said on the pod, I want to get your take. The over under on this team is either 40.5, 41.5, depending on where you go. I was saying all preseason that or all off season that I think I'd take the under because of the lack of talent, and I still think that's there. But based on what I'm hearing and seeing, I'm kind of gone the other way on this now. I could definitely see this team getting 42, 43, or 44 wins. Um, and if I were to place a bet now, I think I'd be on the over on this.
Yeah, I would too. I think they're better than a 500 team. Uh, yeah, they better be. I mean, you get Jaylen Brown out there. If Brown gets hurt, they're not. But if Brown's healthy all season, they'll ride the wave. They'll be, between like 45 and 48 wins, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think that.
This episode is brought to you by Paramount Plus. Paramount Plus has movies. So many movies. The movies you've seen 1,000 times and could watch 1,000 more. Iconic movies your friends can't believe you haven't seen. New movies, classic movies, new takes on classic movies. So whether you're into Top Gun or The Naked Gun, Mean Girls or Mission Impossible, Smurfs or Sonic the Hedgehog, there's a mountain of movies to discover on Paramount Plus. Start streaming today.
All right. On the last pod, Mike, I talked about how my kind of projection of Jordan Walsh has changed a little bit because of this style of play. I thought based off of how the Celtics played in the past, he just didn't fit anymore. He's not a good enough shooter. He's not really a good enough offensive skill player. But I think he can be an energy guy in this style of play. I look back to O'Shea Brissett back on the Pacers squad from a couple of years ago, where he found opportunities for himself because he just was able to fly around, keep the ball moving, hit a couple threes, some dunks, and play defense. And I actually think, you know, 10, 15 minutes of energy basketball from Jordan Walsh on some given nights is probably more likely than not now. I think this probably helps his standing with the team for this season.
Yeah, we'll see. He's definitely an athlete. He's really
Hmm.
athletic. I think that's his one skill set that he has.
And he can defend a little bit. Yeah.
He can, and he's long. He hasn't. The one thing with him since he's come into the league, he hasn't put any muscle weight on. He's the same guy body wise that he was as a rookie, and that's always been my main concern with him is he's not strong enough. And that's like when I look at this team overall, like that's one of my biggest concerns is they don't have guys who are built to put up with the physicality of this league. And I agree he could be that player, but I have to see it because I haven't seen a guy in Jordan Walsh that deserves to be out there every night since he's come into the league. I haven't seen a guy who's really bettered his game or his body. I would think by now, like third year in the league, that he would have put a lot of muscle weight on, and turned himself into, a strong defender. And he's still just kind of a frail athlete, who can get up and down and probably have some highlight dunks in this kind of offense. But he really needs to like build his game like off of Obi Toppin. Like he needs to he needs to be stronger, and I just don't see that happening. And that's my biggest concern with him is that he'll never be able to find a place out there because he doesn't have the skill set as like a dribbler or a passer or somebody who creates for himself. And if he's just not strong enough to be able to defend somebody on the post, he's going to get beat up and pushed around.
Yeah. No, I think it's, we'll see it on the 8th here in a couple nights to see how he looks. If it does look like he's gotten stronger or not. I guess it was tough to kind of tell. I remember,
Yeah, I didn't see it in summer league.
Yeah.
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 I mean, they need him. They need somebody. They need one or two guys from that bench that are going to step up into that role. And he's in his third year. This is it. Tatum's out. This is the best chance he's ever going to get.
Well, in that vein, what do you expect, and what would you consider a good season for a guy like Baylor Scheierman this year?
So what I expect from him, um, I think he might struggle with the type of with how they're playing now. I think there might be some of a hiccup for him because he doesn't feel like the type of guy that gets up and down. But by midseason, I expect him to be a rotation player. And I think he could have a good season offensively. Defensively, I think is going to be where he gets hurt. I think that's going to be another guy. Like now he's in his second year. He's definitely got the offensive skill set, but is he putting the time in the gym to get stronger, to get a little bit bigger, a little bit more muscle on him so he can be dependable on that end of the floor? Because I think that'll always be his challenge to find success in the league.
Yeah, I think defensively for sure. I actually think their style is going to fit him pretty well. He's kind of a ball mover and a playmaker more than he is a shooter. So if they're going to cut down on the number of threes and look for guys to penetrate, make quick plays, quick decisions, I think this will fit him well. At times he maybe has a little too much flash to his game, but in a season where you're not going to be that great, that could be fun, honestly. I do think he's going to have to give it on the defensive end, but I almost even wonder if we could see him as like a bigger point guard in this offense, coming off the bench a little bit on different nights. because
Yep.
he's got a really good handle. I think there's going to be plenty of opportunity for him. I think, once you get beyond White, Pritchard, and Simon, there really isn't a ton at that guard position. So there will be minutes for him. And I do think he's the type of guy that if they're playing at a really fast pace and they need a guy to move the ball ahead with passing, I think he can get comfortable with that pretty quickly.
Yeah, and
But
I think for me, the pace of play is what kind of shape is he in to be able to get up and down and consistently be able to handle those minutes, is what I'd be looking for. His skill set certainly fits it. It's his body type, and just, he's, again, a guy I'm looking at, like, he's got to build up that NBA body, is what I'm saying.
well, I'm guessing based on how they're going after it in training camp, they're all going to be ready to run. I don't think
That's good.
I don't think that's going to be much of an issue. Their win, maybe strength might still be an issue, and we'll see it a little bit, on Wednesday night. But I think they will all be able to run. And I'll be interested too to just see how they get after it defensively. Are we going to see a little bit more grabbing and clawing and maybe just, you know, trying to that cheap physicality, or is it going to be more just putting their bodies into people, playing relentlessly, knowing that, you know, everyone's going to play and everyone's going to get minutes. So let's see how this thing shakes out. And that's
And
really similar
who the
to
backup
what.
center will end up being. That's a big one too.
Well, they said it's going to be. This was another interesting comment. It was either Tillman or someone said it's like a 5-5-5 situation. So it sounds like Missoula wants these guys to play 5 minutes as hard as they can, and then the next center's coming in,
Yeah, so that would be playing all three of them,
playing all
Boucher
three
and
five
Gaza.
5 minutes as hard as you can.
Oh, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean,
So like,
none of them are that good, so you hope you hit with one of them when they play.
yeah. So that's what I think the idea is. Let's see which one of them can take advantage of it. There's a lot of expectations. It feels like to the point where I think people are going to be disappointed if he doesn't improve a lot. But you've heard Scalabrine talk about it. You heard the Celtics play-by-play guy. I'm drawing a blank on his name. Grandy has talked. Yeah, Cotter. Really blowing up Neemias Queta as being a guy that is really going to improve. So I think all eyes will be on him early in the season. Let's see how much of a contributor he really is. They're setting this up as, I'm assuming they've enough of them have seen him in the gym where they feel pretty confident about this, but they have not been quiet about where they see him and how much they think he's going to get better.
Yeah, yeah, they haven't, and I wouldn't go 5-5-5 if that's the case. I would play him. I'd play him a lot because he's the future, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. It is very similar. I'll just say this, like the philosophy reminds me of Rick Carlisle doing what he did with the Pacers a couple seasons ago when
Yeah,
they started to really buy in and you didn't know who they were yet. And he played a lot of guys short minutes, and they all just played balls out the whole time they were in there. And they played with tremendous pace, and eventually the offense just really got going. It felt like everyone had a green light to either pass or shoot, but you just had to make decisions quickly. Um, if they play like this, I don't know how it's going to end. But I really do think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And that's as much as I want for the season. So I'll be pretty
yeah,
satisfied.
it makes them competitive, right?
Yeah.
So, and they're in a tough conference, and there's a
Are
lot
they?
of good teams. I think they are. I know that people are down on the East.
Yeah.
Um, I still think Cleveland's very good. I know Cleveland got bounced last year. I think there's a lot of talent in Cleveland, and this is their time, right? Like if you're a player on that team, this is the year for Cleveland to go to the NBA Finals. It's now or never. I would assume that's their philosophy. The Knicks are really good. I think Orlando's taken a step forward. And so I think those are your top three teams in the East. So those teams, all three of them that I just named, they don't like that kind of play that Indiana brought to the table. They struggle against that. Even with all the talent they had, even the Celtics struggled against that. The teams that want to slow it down and play efficiently, at their pace. Celtics could surprise one of those teams, especially if Tatum comes back. So I think the message that Joe is sending now could benefit them long term, that they're even competitive in the playoffs. So yeah, I'd say go get it and let's see where we are in a couple months, because they might be in a place where they can make a trade at the trade deadline and bring some talent onto this team and try to go after it when Tatum comes back if this style of play works.
Yeah, so we could spend more time. We'll do a preview of the season, I think, with, making our predictions and stuff. But are there a couple teams, like I look at the East right now, I think you're probably right with the top three. I think out of those three, there's only one team that can actually win the finals or have a shot to win the finals, and that would be Cleveland. I
Yep,
just
I
I don't
agree.
think Orlando is ready against a team like OKC, and I just think the Knicks would get annihilated because of the deficiencies. I
The Knicks made some. I got to give the Knicks, although the coaching this offseason was weird, they made some additions to their bench, quiet additions that I think are going to really help them. But go ahead.
Yeah, but I still think they have their two big issues, which is your two worst defensive players, which neither one are even league average good, are your two best offensive players. And I think a team like the Thunder would just tear that apart, especially with the pace of play that they play that as opposed to the Celtics. Um, but yeah, no, I look at the East as probably those top three teams. I think everyone else, there are teams that could potentially like have really good seasons, like Atlanta, and
Yep.
the Pistons, probably are maybe the fourth best team right now. But I think, you can pick out any other team that could potentially be good, and you could just see where it could go really, really wrong at the same time. The other team, that's like a long way of me saying they're all very flawed. Um, and I'll say the team that I'm most interested in watching this year, without doing a deep dive into this, is just Orlando, bringing in Desmond Bain, giving them a little bit extra on that offensive end, shooting that they desperately need. This guy has been a number two scorer on a really good team before. He's a really good defensive player, physical guy, so fits right in. And if they can stay healthy, I think they have a real chance to get out of the East because of the physicality. And if their offense just takes that next step, and if all that happens too, like I also think Banchero becomes a real sneaky dark horse candidate to be like in the MVP discussion when the season ends too, because I don't think people quite yet around the league understand just how fucking good that guy is. And I would make the argument today going into the season, and it might be crazy, that I think he might be the best player in the Eastern Conference. Um, but that's my like real high level thought on the East, and we can go into it more on another pod. Is just that Orlando situation really intrigues me, and I think this year's Banchero's coming out party, like where he's going to be the toast of the league.
Have did they, I know they brought in Desmond Bain, but did they add any to their center position, or are they just rolling it back with Wendell Carter?
They were on the back with Wendell Carter and Mo Wagner and that group there. I know it's not perfect, but
It's far
I
from.
mean,
Not with the size in the league now. You got
I,
Denver, who's talking about playing two 7-footers together. You have OKC, who play two
I
seven
guess I'm not even
together.
thinking about out west though, Mike, because I don't think they're
Well,
ready
even
to
even
compete
out
out
east,
west.
even out
Yeah.
east, we have Mosley and Allen, and now I know that the Knicks they're going double big now.
Yeah,
Um, that's the route they're going. They're going to be playing Mitchell Robinson big minutes from everything I've been hearing. So that might be one area where that could be Orlando's kryptonite.
sure, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would tell you those teams in the East though don't necessarily match up with their wings all that well. Maybe the Knicks a little bit, but their wings are huge. So they don't have great size at center, but their wings are bigger than Brown and Tatum. They're enormous. They're just like, and the
Yeah, but the
type of guy
problem with
you
the
you
problem with
can't
their
move Banchero off his spot. I
yeah.
like
Well, the problem with Wagner though is that Franz he can't
Wagner, yeah.
yeah he can't shoot.
No, he can, and that's been a weird thing. It's like a Chuck Knobloch kid. They're fun too. I just think they're very interesting to watch with Desmond Bane because they're already great defensively. I
Yep.
like so those centers will give them trouble on the when they're playing offense. Like those centers will put some stress on Orlando's offense, but I don't think those centers are going to stress their defense. They never did before. Like,
Uh-huh.
the Carter holds his own. Wagner is fine, and their wings are so friggin' big. Like, they defensively, you could make an argument already the best team in the East.
Oh, definitely.
So, like, I don't
Even with
know.
the guys they got coming in off the bench.
They're probably not quite there yet. Maybe they are. Move away, Michael. I just think they're very interesting to watch, and if Banchero can finally stay healthy, I think it's people are going to be surprised just what he's capable of. He's got like Kawhi Leonard strength and skill of Tatum, and just like I he's bigger than both of them. The guy,
Yep.
he's huge. He's fucking huge.
Yeah, and we saw how well he played in the playoffs last year against Boston, and
Yeah,
even the year prior, that 7-game series against Cleveland, how well he was awesome.
he was.
Um, yeah, that's why I have them as a top 3 team in the East. I think coming out of the East this year is either going to be Orlando, Cleveland, or New York. Those are the
Yeah,
teams to me. Um, after that, I think it's kind of wide open. I know everybody's picking Detroit at the 4. I mean, they didn't have a great offseason.
no,
It's not like they brought in a ton of additions. They lost Beasley. They lost Tim Hardaway Jr. Who was the shooter they brought in to replace him? I know they brought somebody on.
I don't know. I think we got to do this again where I can actually do a deeper dive into the East without looking it up in real time. But I'll take a quick peek. Yeah, no,
Yeah, and
they're just in that group of teams. I think.
I think
that-
Miami's in that group of teams. I think bringing in Norm Powell to play with Tyler Hero and to play with
Well,
Bam
they
Adebayo. They certainly have a good center in Miami now, that the rookie from last year. Um, but yeah, I mean, if we're talking about Miami as a top 6 team, that tells you outside the top 3. And then
I
you
don't
got
think
Milwaukee.
Miami's top 6. I think they're going to be terrible.
You have the Milwaukee Bucks.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
they brought in Duncan Robinson, Karis LeVert, and Jordan Ivey will be coming back to full strength
yeah,
for them.
that's not a great offseason.
No, it's
I
not a
mean,
great offseason.
Duncan Robinson hasn't been great in a long time.
No.
Um, and I'm sure they overspent for him. So
Yeah,
yeah,
no,
I mean,
just
there's a shot the Celtics could be a top 4, top 5 team.
there's a drop off. I mean, like Atlanta's sailing is they could be in the top 3, but at the same time, you could see where things go wrong, and including where Trae Young starts bitching about his extension being, coming up on a contract year here, and them not really being willing to give him one. So, like, how does that play out? Is Porzingis a
I don't
guy
know.
that stays on the floor? Like, all those things are. I think there's a lot of questions about a lot of teams, even in the top 3. Like even Cleveland, they got bounced embarrassingly to Indiana last year, just like the Celtics were embarrassed by the Knicks. And is Evan Mobley going to finally be their best player? Because that's how you have a chance to win a championship. That's how you get to the NBA Finals. But the guy,
Mhm.
on some nights, there seems to be 2 guys in his body. There's the Evan Mobley that shows up, and then there's Steve Mobley who kind of floats around. And so until he becomes that consistent, like top five guy, which it's in him, it's in his body. They're not that team. And the Knicks,
I
we
got
spent
I got a
time at
dark horse
nauseum on
team
their
for you, Jim.
flaws.
I have a dark horse team for you, and
Out of the
it's
East,
Brandon. Yeah, as an Eastern
uh,
Conference team that could compete in the East.
compete
They couldn't
in
compete. Yeah,
what does compete in the East mean though?
that they could be a top 5, 6 seed. Um, I
I don't know.
I take a look at Toronto. I think Toronto's building towards something. They brought in Brandon Ingram. They're going to have him this year.
Mhm.
Grady Dick was a good player last year. I'd be interested to see how they're going to look this season. They have a lot of wing players in Toronto. They have some shooting now. It's always been their flaw. I'd say that's a team that might be able to take a step forward this year. With how weak the East is as a team that could get into the playoffs that hasn't been there traditionally.
Well, do they have an all-star on their roster?
I
Scotty
think Brandon,
Barnes, maybe.
yeah, they have Barnes and they have Ingram. I think Ingram's got the talent to be an all star.
Do you
And
think he's an
certainly,
all-star though?
uh, he's not on the floor enough to be an all star, but his talent is there. He's a 25 point a game scorer.
Yeah.
Um,
To
very
me,
gifted offensive player.
for the Raptors to be like to get up into a team that you actually think about, Scotty Barnes has to become an all NBA player. And another guy that should be capable of getting to that level. Um, he has a build, can shoot it a little bit. But, he's been overall disappointing to me since his rookie year,
I
where
agree.
he has not taken the step I thought he would take. When he came into the league, I'm like, holy shit, they really got something. And I just think he's leveled off and not really taken that jump. So, yeah, they could be interesting. Um, but, they have a starting five that I guess you go Quickly, Barrett, Bonds, Ingram, and uh, what's his
Pirtle,
name? This Pirtle. Like
Pirtle. Yeah.
that's not terrible. You know,
So quickly, it's their starting
so
point guard.
that's what I would assume.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might be an issue.
Yeah. But every team in the East has issues. It's not like out West where you look at the top five teams and you're kind of like, holy shit, and you until you get to Golden State with their age, do you really start seeing real significant issues with some of these rosters out West. Every East team has like real legitimate question marks, and that's why to me it's weak. It's just, and maybe the Celtics, you look at, you can compare it to those Celtics of Isaiah Thomas teams where they probably play better than the sum of the parts. Their record wasn't as good as the talent on the team, but if Missoula
And
gets
there
them to buy in, they could they could do better than they probably should in this
and
East.
there are some. I mean, there are some bad teams in the East. Like way too many of them. I mean, the Chicago Bulls, the Charlotte Hornets, the Washington Wizards, the Brooklyn Nets. There are just teams that just can't compete. Like even before the season starts, where out west you can only pick like one or two. You know,
Yeah.
um, yeah. This the East is. Yeah, I was wrong at the start of this. The East got a lot of bad teams. A
Yeah,
lot of bad.
Charlotte might be a team that surprises you a little bit. There is, with the East being as bad as it is, there is some talent over there where, maybe they sniff 40 wins this season. That wouldn't completely shock me,
I mean, that
But
backcourt in Charlotte, they just never been healthy. You talk about
yeah,
Brandon Miller and LaMelo Ball, and that is high end talent in that backcourt with a ton of shooting, but neither one of them can play more than 20 games in the season.
yeah, yeah. And do they even have a center on their
Well,
roster
that was the
too?
thing. I mean, Mark Williams was another
Yeah,
guy with all the talent in the world and could just never play.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, I'll end it with closing thought. If you have one, Mike, feel free to chime in. I don't know if you saw Clippers Media Day.
I
Asked
did not.
one question of Kawhi, and he said he doesn't get into conspiracy theories. And then there were reports out. Ramona Shelburne of ESPN said that she went to ask a question about Pablo Torres's expose, and they put a hand over a microphone,
Oh,
and they were
nice.
telling reporters not to ask or to be asked to leave. So it just feels like you're having the full-on league and the Clippers doing everything they can to just make this quietly go away, which, is not surprising. And there is no real media out there it's going to pick up the baton from Torrey and go with this. Unfortunately, no one in the Clippers beat is going to do that, and ESPN sure as fuck is not going to do that. So neither is NBC or any of the other partners that are out there.
No, I just want to go away.
Yeah.
Which means it'll happen all over the league. Well, the Celtics have a guy who might compete for six man of the year this year, and Simmons, Jim, or Simons. Yeah,
yes.
He might be able to put up a lot of numbers, and that reminds me of the 06 Celtics team with Ricky Davis when he took home the sixth man of the year. Remember that team? Remember Ricky Davis?
I do. Yes, I do.
Yeah, he put up some.
He always looked like the guy from Outkast, the singer from Outkast.
He did, yeah. He would put up. He's like the king of the mid range. He had a good mid range game, good dunk, and then that game 7 that year against the Pacers at home, they just completely imploded and their season ended. Do you know Gary Payton was on that team too?
Yeah, I do. That was game 7. Yeah, another Doc Rivers game 7 special for you. Yeah.
Yeah, they traded for Antoine Walker at the deadline, brought him back.
Number 88.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I bring up Ricky Davis because there'll be a highlight reel according to Jimmy after this pod. So
what Ricky Davis, he wasn't on that team, was he?
He was 6 man.
He was?
Yeah, he was the 6 man on that team.
Because that team had that was Delonte West rookie year, Tony Allen's rookie year.
Were they rookies that year?
Yeah,
I know
Marcus.
I know Marcus Banks was part of the rotation.
Yeah,
he would pick up people full court. That's all he could do.
he was fast.
Yeah. And who was the center on that team? Who was that center?
Al Jefferson.
Al Jefferson was a rookie.
Yeah.
So maybe it was 05. I forget the exact year. And the following season is when Ricky Davis just fell apart and they had to move him and Mark Blunt to Washington. I mean,
yeah, see, I don't think Ricky Davis was on that playoff team. I think it was the year before he was moved.
Are you sure? I'm pretty sure he was on that playoff team. That was the year he won 6 man of the year. Because he definitely didn't win 6 man of the year with the Celtics when they were bad. Yeah, Ricky Davis was on the playoff team. I know he was.
2003 to 2005.
Yeah, so he
wasn't on that team.
Are you positive about that? I'm gonna look that up.
I'm positive.
So he won 6 man of the year with the Celtics when they were bad.
04-05? Was 04-05 the year they made it to the playoffs?
That must have been it. Because 06 is when Miami won the championship with Antoine Walker and Gary Payton, right? So they must have left that following offseason. Payton and Antoine Walker.
Yeah, so the Celtics were in the playoffs in 04-05. So you're right. Okay.
Yeah. So it was a fall. Yeah. It was the 06 season that Mark Blunt and Ricky Davis got moved to Minnesota. And they came back to beat Boston, the two of them skipping up and down the court.
Yeah.
Good times. Anyways, I look forward to the Ricky Davis highlight reel, Jim.
All right. We'll get after it.
All right.
Talk to everyone soon.
Go C's.
Get up, your weight up, souped up, put your dukes up, no guts set up, but sit up, flip up, watch us rip up, shake shows until they fizz up, rizz up, like you're with us, if not zip up your lip up, whip up, hits with ransom, foul styles get and ones, we came back cause we heard it pop needed another anthem, black like Noah, in fact then for ya, and we was back in the days with the distance, we'd have been known as the blowers, revenue since the 70s, find me, so we went crazy in the 80s, so we won't Tinies in the 90s, oops the naughties. Troops in sections of 40, so clap your hands and hold your shorty, I'm naughty.